So N particles. This menu here will let us make particles. And particles are any type of little like dust mote type of things that you might want to have in your scene. You'll see a number of ways that they can be useful. Just as a warning, first, with particles, there are these legacy particles down here. We're not going to work with the legacy particles. So when I create an emitter, which is going to be my first step, I'm going to use this emitter, not this one. They do different things. This one doesn't make N particles, it just makes regular Maya particles, which are also great and have their place, but since we're focused on N dynamics today, I'm going to be working with this one. With all of the particles that we're going to work with, the first thing that you need to do is create particles in your scene. And with N particles, you'll see that I can start by just making an object and filling it with particles. That's awesome if you ever need to make something and fill it with stuff, but we're not going to be doing that. We're not going to be getting an example. Later on, we're going to use the N particle tool, which will let us create a finite amount of particles, but I always like to start off by talking about an infinite amount of particles, so I'm going to start by creating an emitter. And I'm not going to do any fancy things with it, I'm just going to make an emitter. The emitter is the point in the scene from which the particles will come. I've picked mine up so that you can differentiate it from the nucleus. This is the same nucleus that we had in the other scene, so it starts with a gravity of 9.8 meters per second in the negative y direction. No wind noise, no turbulence. Again, we can check use plane. We don't need to. Here's the emitter. And if I just go ahead, I'll move my playback head back to 1, press play. You see that what the emitter does is it emits these cute little white dots. The emitter type is set to be omni, but because of the way gravity is working, it's really emitting in one direction. You could also have a directional emitter, so now it is emitting specifically in one direction. I could have a surface emitter, so you can emit N particles from an object. You can also use a curve or a volume. That's a volume emitter. I'll stick here with the omni emitter for starters. My rate right now is 100 particles per second. If I make this smaller, I will have fewer particles. If I make this greater, I can have more particles. Look, it's a waterfall. You can scale by rate of speed. It's not going to make a difference right now because we have this very limited particle that we're working with. That's okay. The cycle emission is set to none, time random off. You can also have it go in a less random fashion. I happen to like random, that's me. There are distance attributes that I can mess with. There are speed attributes. I can also set this to have a random speed of emission. So now it'll look more like a lawn sprinkler, where every now and then it just shoots one in the wrong direction. I can also animate the point of emission. So if I wanted to have like a train with the smokestack, I could reverse this and just animate this thing moving around here. Let's pause that. Grab the emitter and we'll put it here. Press S. Move it over here, press S, and now it'll move as it's emitting. So just remember that that is an option for you. I'm going to go back and undo all of my animation because I don't really need it. Depending on the type of emitter that you use, you may get a few extra attributes here. And here's where you can also change your color, which is nice. But along with these, you'll see over here in the outliner and up here at the top of the tab that the emitter emits particles, and here's where I control the particle shape. The count is at present being determined by the emitter. The lifespan is set to live forever, so my particles will live forever and they just keep falling infinitely and never dying, which is kind of frightening when you think about it. You can set this to be constant, so let me give them a lifespan of, well, actually one is fine. You can see already that they live for about a second and then they die. I can give them a random range where some of them live for 1 second, and then let's make the random factor 10, and now some of them will live a lot longer and some of them will not. And then I can do a lifespan per particle only, which will decide on a per particle basis. I like a random range. I do like to think that some of my particles are going to die eventually. It freaks me out when they live forever. But everybody's different. So if you like that, that's fine. I can change my particle radius. Since our particles are currently set to points, that's not going to make much of a difference. But if I can find the particle shape, which is in here somewhere, I may be able to get this to make a big change. So we'll come back to that. They will collide with any kind of collider that I've got in the scene. Right now there are none. But up in here, just the same as with the end cloth, I can make passive colliders and they'll collide with those. You can also have them self-collide. Under dynamic properties, I can have them ignore the wind and the gravity set by the nucleus, and I can adjust that here instead. I can give them a mass scale, and I can also generate a force field if I want to. So let's see what happens if I do that. Let's give that a much higher magnitude. Let's cause it to self-attract. And let's see if I can get my point to do anything exciting. And again, I'm getting more of a water sprinkler thing here. You also have all of these nice little graphs that you can come in and adjust so you can tweak the effect a little bit. I can put rotation in, and again, our points really aren't going to do much there. I can give them more air push, so they're affected more by the air, or they're affected more by the wind. I can convert them into a liquid simulation. We really don't want to do that. Like I said before, I really don't want to touch liquid. It just makes your computer cry a little bit. Under shading, I can switch these from points to something like a sphere. And now you see I'm getting into trouble with the computer. No, we don't want to do the spheres. That's okay, sometimes we don't. Let's see if I can get a blobby surface. I can usually get the blobby surface to at least appear. No. I am asking my computer to do an awful lot between all of these simulations and the screen cap software, so I'm going to recommend that you come into shading, give this a little bit of a sort, and see what you can do with it, and just try messing around with some of the particle options that you've got. When you're done, go back to the nucleus, try using gravity, try using air density, wind noise, and see if you can blow your particles around a little bit. We're not going to do anything too specific here. I just want you to give the particles a shot and see what you can do with them.